There is a story many Americans believe. It is a story about who receives government help. This story often paints a picture of a single group, usually black families, as the main recipients of what we call welfare. It is a powerful image, used in politics and media for decades. It shapes how people think about poverty fairness, who deserve support. This story suggests that certain communities are more dependent on the government than others. It is a simple narrative, easy to repeat. It taps into deep-seated biases about race work ethic in America. But like many simple stories, it is not true. The facts, when we take the time to look at them, tell a very different story. The reality, supported by decades of data. This is true across many of the country's biggest safety net programs. For example, a poll by the Kaiser Family Foundation found that many people believe black adults are the primary beneficiaries of Medicaid. The truth is the opposite. Census Bureau data shows that the largest racial group enrolled in Medicaid is white. This disconnect between public perception and factual reality is not an accident. It's the result of a constructed myth serving a political purpose by dividing people with common economic interests. This misunderstanding has enormous consequences. It makes honest conversations about poverty fairness who millions of Americans face, regardless of their race. When we believe these programs serve only one small group, we are less likely to support them. We might see them as their programs instead of our programs. That thinking leads to more punitive, less generous policies, harder to access for everyone. It weakens the social safety net meant to catch any of us if we fall on hard times. Correcting this myth isn't just about numbers. A social safety net reflects our values. It shows whether we help neighbors facing job loss, illness, disability. The persistent myth undermines solidarity. It encourages seeing each other as competitors rather than fellow citizens. By replacing fiction with facts, we can build policies based on reality and care for all Americans. When we talk about welfare, we are often talking about a wide range of programs. It is not just one thing. The main programs that help families with low incomes include the Supplemental Nutrition Assistance Program, which helps people buy food, temporary assistance for needy families, which provides cash assistance, Medicaid providing health insurance to millions of adults and children. Each program serves a diverse population. The data consistently shows that in raw numbers, white Americans are the largest group of beneficiaries. While people of color face higher rates of poverty, white Americans still make up the largest share of the low-income population in the United States. Separate the rate of poverty from the total number of people in poverty. Systemic barriers like discrimination in housing, education, and employment have driven higher poverty rates in Black and Hispanic communities. A larger percentage of their populations may need safety net programs. But because white Americans are a larger share of the overall population, they represent the largest absolute number of people living in poverty. Therefore, they also represent the largest number receiving assistance. Confusing rate versus raw number fuels the welfare myth. Let's, look at the data from the U.S. Census Bureau. It gives us a clear picture. For SNAP, the government's largest food assistance program, the numbers speak for themselves. About 43% of SNAP recipients are white, about 23% are Black, 17% are Hispanic, smaller percentages are Asian and Native American. There are nearly twice as many white participants as Black participants. That directly challenges a powerful political stereotype. The face of food assistance, numerically, is more likely to be white. This pattern holds for other programs too. TANF reaches far fewer families today, but its demographics also defy the stereotype. Medicaid provides healthcare to over 90 million Americans. Non-Hispanic white people are the largest single group of enrollees. Understanding these facts is the first step to an honest, productive conversation about poverty. The data does not support the myth. The Supplemental Nutrition Assistance Program, or SNAP, is one of the most important anti-poverty programs in the United States. It provides families with money on an electronic card, similar to a debit card, that can only be used to buy groceries. The goal is simple: to make sure that no one in a rich country goes hungry. Because it is so widely used, SNAP provides one of the clearest examples of who benefits from the social safety net. The program helps children, seniors, people with disabilities, low-wage workers. It is a lifeline that ensures millions of families can put food on the table each month, especially when the economy is weak or when a parent loses a job. The stereotype of the SNAP recipient is often a racialized one, but the reality is far more diverse. As mentioned, the largest group of people receiving SNAP benefits is white. This is not a new trend. It has been a consistent demographic fact for many years. Many of these recipients live in rural areas, suburban areas, not just big cities. Think of a factory worker in Ohio who was laid off, a farmer in Iowa struggling with low crop prices, a retail worker in Florida whose hours were cut. These are common stories behind the statistics. They are stories of working people who have fallen on hard times and need temporary help to feed their families. The program is also designed to support work. A large percentage of SNAP households include someone who is employed but earns very low wages. According to the Center on Budget and Policy Priorities, a nonpartisan research institute, millions of SNAP recipients are part of working families. Their wages are so low that they still cannot afford all of their basic necessities, including food. This fact directly contradicts another part of the welfare myth, the idea that recipients are unwilling to work. For many, SNAP is not a replacement for a job but a supplement to a low-paying one, helping to bridge the gap between their income and the high cost of living. Medicaid is another pillar of the American social safety net, and like SNAP, it is widely misunderstood. It is a government-funded health insurance program for low-income individuals and families. For many Americans, it is the only way they can see a doctor, get prescription medicines, receive hospital care. The program is especially vital for children, pregnant women, seniors in nursing homes, people with disabilities. Before the Affordable Care Act expanded Medicaid in many states, millions of low-wage workers had no health insurance options at all. Medicaid filled that gap, providing a crucial lifeline for health and financial stability. The public perception of who uses Medicaid is heavily skewed by the same racial myths that affect opinions on welfare. Many people, when asked, assume that Black Americans are the program's largest beneficiaries. However, the data from the Kaiser Family Foundation and the U.S. Census Bureau paints a very different picture. Numerically, white Americans make up the largest group of Medicaid enrollees nationwide. In 2022, for instance, about 42% of enrollees were white compared to about 20% who were Black and 25% who were Hispanic. While the program is incredibly important for communities of color who face greater health disparities, it serves a broad cross-section of the American public. This misunderstanding matters because it affects public support for the program. When people believe Medicaid is for someone else, they are less likely to see it as a shared public good. This can lead to political decisions to cut funding, restrict eligibility, impose burdensome work requirements. These changes harm everyone on the program, regardless of their race. A sick worker in a rural town who loses Medicaid coverage is hurt just as much as a sick worker in an inner city. The myth divides people who have a shared interest in a strong healthcare safety net, making it easier for politicians to weaken the entire system. The racial myths about welfare are not new. They have deep roots in American history. They go back to the creation of the modern social safety net. When the Social Security Act was passed in 1935 during the Great Depression, it was a landmark. It created programs for unemployment insurance. It created programs for old age pensions. It created programs for aid for dependent children. However, it was designed with intentional exclusions. The law specifically excluded agricultural workers. The law specifically excluded domestic servants. At the time, those were the primary occupations for a majority of Black Americans, particularly in the South. This was not an accident. It was a political compromise to win the support of powerful Southern Democrats in Congress. Those politicians were determined to maintain cheap labor and racial hierarchy. By denying Social Security benefits to farm and domestic workers, they ensured Black workers remained economically vulnerable. They remained dependent on low-wage jobs. The decision effectively created two welfare systems, one for white industrial workers, more generous, respectable social insurance, another, far weaker system, locally controlled public assistance for those left out, disproportionately Black. Even available programs were often administered in a discriminatory way. State and local officials had great power over who received aid. They used this power to enforce social norms and, control the black population. For example, many southern states implemented man-in-the-house rules. Those rules allowed denying a woman benefits if there was evidence of a man living in her home, or even visiting her home. Social workers would conduct surprise raids, often in the middle of the night, to enforce these rules. The policy aimed to control the lives of black women and deny them assistance. It reinforced the idea they were morally undeserving of help. These historical choices laid the groundwork for the welfare myths we see today. The system was built from the beginning to treat white and black Americans differently. More generous universal programs were largely for white workers. The more stigmatized, means-tested programs concentrated people of color. This created a visible association between race and welfare. The stereotype of the undeserving welfare recipient did not emerge from thin air. It was baked into policy from the start. In the 1970s, the coded language of welfare and race became a powerful tool in American politics. This was when the stereotype of the welfare queen entered the national conversation. The term was popularized by Ronald Reagan during his political campaigns. He told a story of a woman from Chicago who was supposedly cheating the system to get rich. He claimed she had multiple names, addresses, social security cards, and was using them to collect an enormous amount of government money. He described her as having a fleet of Cadillacs and living a life of luxury, all paid for by hardworking taxpayers. This story was repeated over and over again. The story was a gross exaggeration, but it was incredibly effective. It created a vivid and memorable image in the minds of many voters. Although Reagan rarely mentioned race explicitly, the image of the welfare queen was widely understood to be a black woman. This trope tapped into existing racial resentments and stereotypes about black laziness and dishonesty. It suggested that poverty was not the result of economic forces or systemic barriers, but a personal failing and a deliberate choice to live off the government. It was a simple, powerful narrative that blamed the poor for their own poverty, and it made for a convenient political villain. This rhetoric had a clear political purpose. It was used to build support for cutting social spending and reducing the size of government. By painting welfare recipients as undeserving cheats, politicians could justify taking away their benefits. It was a strategy of, divide and conquer. It encouraged white working class and middle class voters to see their tax dollars as being wasted on lazy and undeserving people who were implicitly understood to be black. This broke down the sense of solidarity that had been part of the New Deal coalition, where people from different backgrounds saw the government as a force for good that could help everyone. The welfare queen myth was not just a story, it was a political weapon. It successfully shifted the conversation about poverty from one of economic justice to one of individual morality and fraud. It made it easier to attack the social safety net without appearing to be heartless. Instead of talking about things like a lack of good jobs, low wages, the high cost of childcare, the debate became focused on cracking down on welfare cheats. This narrative became so dominant that it set the stage for major changes to the welfare system in the decades that followed, shaping policy in a way that was more punitive and less supportive. The political narrative built around the welfare queen myth came to a head in 1996. That year, President Bill Clinton signed the Personal Responsibility and Work Opportunity Reconciliation Act, PR-WORA. This was a massive overhaul of the nation's welfare system. The law ended the 60-year-old federal guarantee of cash assistance for needy families. It replaced the old program, Aid to Families with Dependent Children, AFDC. It created a new program, Temporary Assistance for Needy Families, TANF. The name change signaled a shift from providing aid to enforcing personal responsibility and work. The new law was based on ideas popularized by the welfare myth. It was designed to be much stricter and more punitive. TANF introduced strict time limits, capping the number of years someone could receive federal cash assistance. It also added strong work requirements, forcing recipients to find a job or do work-related activities to keep benefits. The law shifted funding to states through block grants, meaning a fixed federal payment each year. That gave states more flexibility, but allowed them to divert funds away from cash assistance toward other state budget priorities. The results were dramatic. The number of families receiving cash assistance plummeted. While supporters called falling rolls a success, the reality was more complex. Many families were pushed off welfare without stable, well-paying jobs. They were left with no cash income and no safety net. Deep poverty rose significantly, living on less than half the poverty line. Researchers at the Urban Institute note TANF often moved people into work, but into unstable, low-wage jobs, leaving them no better off. The 1996 reform shows how a racialized myth became policy. The law leaned on the stereotype of the undeserving recipient and focused on forcing individuals to work. It ignored structural causes of poverty, lack of affordable childcare, job discrimination, low wages. Instead, it prioritized punishment. The consequences remain today. The cash assistance safety net is much weaker than before 1996 and reaches far fewer families in poverty. The welfare queen myth didn't just change minds, it changed laws and made life harder for millions of the poorest families in America. Even with all the data showing it is false, the welfare myth persists. There are several reasons for its stubborn survival. One reason is cognitive bias. People tend to look for and remember information that confirms what they already believe. If someone has grown up hearing that welfare is primarily for Black people, they are more likely to notice and remember stories or images that fit that narrative, while ignoring the evidence that contradicts it. The media has also played a role. For decades, news coverage of poverty has disproportionately featured images of Black people, reinforcing the stereotype even when the stories themselves are not intentionally biased. Another key reason is political gain. The myth is a powerful tool for politicians who want to win elections by appealing to racial anxieties. By blaming a specific group for economic problems, they can distract voters from other issues, corporate power, unequal tax policies. It is an effective strategy of scapegoating. It creates an us versus them mentality, encouraging one group of struggling people to resent another group of struggling people. This division prevents people from coming together to demand policies that would help all working families, a higher minimum wage, stronger unions, more affordable health care. The persistence of this myth has devastating effects. First, it leads to bad policy. When lawmakers believe the public is hostile to welfare, they are more likely to support punitive measures like drug testing, stricter work requirements, shorter time limits. These rules make it harder for anyone, regardless of race, to get help when they need it. They are often based on stereotypes rather than evidence of what actually helps people escape poverty. For example, the idea that welfare recipients need to be forced to work ignores the fact that many are already working in low-wage jobs or cannot work due to a disability or caregiving responsibilities. Second, the myth corrodes social solidarity. It weakens the idea that we are all in this together. When a significant portion of the public believes that the safety net is just a handout for an undeserving group, it becomes impossible to build the political will for a robust system of social support. As the scholar and author Heather McGhee has argued, racism creates a drain on public goods for everyone. People become so afraid that someone from another race might benefit that they are willing to vote against programs that would help their own families. The welfare myth is a prime example of this dynamic, and it ultimately leaves everyone more economically insecure. Debunking the welfare myth is the first step, but it is not enough. We must also build a better system. The facts are clear. The social safety net is for all of us. The largest group of recipients is white. Poverty and economic insecurity are American problems that do not discriminate by race. Once we accept this reality, we can start to design policies that reflect it. Instead of focusing on who deserves help, we can create systems that are simple and accessible, and designed to support anyone who needs them. This requires a fundamental shift in how we think about social support. One clear policy direction is to move toward more universal programs. Universal programs are available to everyone or to large groups of people. They avoid complex, often demeaning eligibility requirements of means-tested welfare, Social Security, Medicare. Because they are for all seniors, they are widely popular and politically strong. We could apply this principle to other areas. For example, a universal child allowance, providing a monthly payment to all families with children, it would dramatically reduce child poverty without the stigma of traditional welfare. Universal pre-K affordable childcare. A second equally important direction is to actively design policies with racial equity in mind. This means looking at how new rules might affect different communities and removing barriers that disproportionately harm people of color. Undoing the legacy of historical exclusions from the 1930s, undoing the punitive reforms of the 1990s, strengthening enforcement against housing and job discrimination. Investing in communities that have been historically neglected. Ensuring access to benefits is not hindered by complicated applications or biased local administrators. It is about building a system that is truly fair from the ground up. The myth about welfare has been used to divide us for far too long, weakening the very programs that make our society more humane and stable. By arming ourselves with the facts, we can reject this divisive narrative. The social safety net is not a drain on our resources. It is a shared investment in our collective well-being. It provides a foundation of economic security for millions of Americans of every race, from every corner of the country. By building a system based on universal support and true equality, we can create a nation where everyone has the chance to thrive. A stronger safety net for one is a stronger society for all. Economic insecurity is an American problem that crosses racial lines and affects millions from every background.